Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya and welcome to TFR Let's Talk. Today we have with us Jamie Boote, Associate Principal Security Consultant at Black Duck. Jamie, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And today we are going to talk about Black Duck's BSIM 15 report. But before we go there, just of course, everybody knows Black Duck, but just quickly remind them about the company.
Sure. So Black Duck is a software and services company that creates tools and offers services to help help companies build trustworthy software. The elevator pitch is we help you build software that's harder to hack.
Before getting into the report, can you just quickly also talk about how has the security, as you said, the elevator pitches to make it hard to hack, but the fact is security is not a product. Security is not a destination. It's a journey. It's a process, And also, as I say, the good guys have to be right 101% of the time. The bad guys have to be right only once. How have you seen security from the lens of Black Duck evolve in a couple of years?
Oh man. So, okay, that is a good question. The security field is only about 22 years old now. Application security. A lot of people draw the kickoff back with the Bill Gates memo saying we have to stop production on Windows XP. We got to fix all of our security issues. Security is now a priority, and he set the priority for the rest of the industry. And that was when it shifted from, security is something that the hardware guys do or the network guys do, to we build secure software. And so starting from essentially scratch 2 decades ago, all the way to it being fairly mature now. And so, yes, security is not a product. You can't bundle up security and send it to someone through the mail. But it's an aspect of what good security is, or of what a good product is. An insecure product isn't really a quality product, and all of our clients are interested in shipping quality, good products, and that means secure products.
Let's just talk about Baghdad's recent BSIM 15 report. I want to talk about what is the idea behind this report, for how long you folks have been doing this report, and then we will talk about the findings for this year's report.
You mentioned that the idea used to be that you could buy a security device, you could buy security software, and you could wrap a server in security. And it was found that that wasn't enough, because you can't cut off network access, and the bad guys are going to get network access. They're going to use the same avenues to reach your software as legitimate users are. And that's why the BSIM, the framework that we're here to talk about, is called the Build Security in Maturity model. It is a reaction, or a counter movement to the idea of adding on security or testing insecurity, but starting from the beginning and at a piece of software's design, the ideation, and recognizing, hey, how can we do this securely? How can we do this well? And it goes all the way through to design, build, compile, test, and deploy and operate, and even sundown maturely. So it's been going for about 15 years now. We're on the 15th iteration of the report. It's released annually. And the initial goal was to go out and document what companies were doing in order to build their software securely. So it was an initial 9 firms that were early adopters of security, and they all had the question of, what are we doing around security? What are our peers doing around security? And we have continued to measure firms and release an annual report that talks about the state of secure application development in the industry ever since.
When we look at this latest report, of course, talk about the highlights, but also talk about things where you saw that, hey, these are new findings, new observations this year, which we're expecting, or they are saying that even you were shocked that, oh, we were not expecting that. It could be on both sides that, yeah, actually organizations are doing a good job, or you're like, hey, how did that slip through that? So expectations, what we are expecting, some shocking, and in general highlights of this report.
We did add a couple of new activities, and one of them was in relation to government regulation. Governments, the European Union, the US government, and others around the world are putting additional stress and emphasis on you need to build software security. But we also noticed that firms were dealing with, AI and ML. How do you use this security, or how do you use this tool securely? If you purchase it, what are the security concerns? If my developers are using AI/ML, how can I help them use it securely? And we added a new activity because we found that firms were doing forward-looking planning around this. They didn't have a crystal ball, but they did have a bunch of people who understood security, understood their business cases, and came together to say, before the developers went off and just started using it and potentially leaking secrets or falling into the common traps of AI ML that like the hallucinations or potential IP issues, that they were saying, here's how you can use it safely. Here are the safeguards we need to put in place. This is what we need from our vendors. This is what we need from our developers. And we're going to start measuring that and reporting on those activities in the future report.
Now, let's talk about some of the emerging trends or workloads, technologies. Of course, in this space, a lot of things keep coming up. But AI, Gen AI, is kind of getting a lot of buzz these days. How has AI affected security? We can look at it from two different lenses. One is to kind of protect AI or to protect from AI, and second is to actually use AI to make your tools more sophisticated. So it's like three-pronged question.
I've heard it described as security for AI, AI for security, and firms are looking at it through that lens of, how can we protect all this stuff? So one of the things that we did this year is we went to our BSIM activities. There's a catalog of 126, I think, maybe 128. There's the number is getting up there. Individual activities that firms can do, and we do add one or two as the industry evolves. But a lot of those were already applicable. So things that firms have been doing for 15 years, 20 years since the birth of application security are still applicable. They were just, they need to use it in this new AI/ML space. The threats have changed, the attack surface has changed, but the methodology that you use to analyze all that hasn't changed. Mhm. Yes. Right, right. So one of one of the things about AI/ML, like you mentioned, is that it's software that's been around for 30 years, and there's a new iteration that is way more useful to a general audience, and it's way more powerful than we've seen previous iterations be. But it's still software. The the average AI ML engine that a developer is going to go out and start tinkering with generally comes as a bundle of scripts that they pull from an open source repository and training data that they source from common area. And like if you take a step back, that means that they are going out to the input side of their supply chain and they're bringing stuff into the perimeter. And so as they are bringing in this open source model, this third party data, it needs to be checked for integrity and risk and issues that potentially could have been placed there maliciously or discovered by researchers when when the original developer didn't didn't leave out or didn't code in the right line of code, and there was a vulnerability. And so that secure use, that secure implementation. So we help with bringing it into the perimeter, and once it's integrated into a design, once it's integrated into the program, it has to be tested, and you run special use cases against it because it is a different kind of software and it needs different kind of security tests. But it's still a dynamic test. You're still running against running software, and it's not it's not magic. It's just new. So we help with that, and so really when you are dealing with AI ML, until there's industry best practices out there, you need to build the best practices you can in their absence.
What kind of challenges organizations face when it comes to enabling or training their teams from cultural point of view? Because folks like Black Duck, you can offer as many solutions, as many tools as you want, but you can bring a horse to the lake but cannot make it drink. So talk about the cultural aspect. What challenges you see that organizations face?
The BSIM 15, it's been we're on the 15th iteration, and one of the powerful things about this is that we can do year-over-year analysis, and we found that the practice around training was declining in observations, pretty much year over year, from the start where everyone was doing some form of training to now it's not as universal as it once was. But you mentioned that there are cultures, and every organization has a different culture. Every organization has a different level of maturity. And there are activities in the BSIM that are really applicable to developers and security programs who are just dipping their toe into security for the first time, delivering computer-based training, instructor-led training, boot camps, and this general, hey, here's what security is, here's what you need to look out for, go do. But as firms continue to mature, there comes a point where, I went to college, you went to school, I stopped being a student. Like, I still learn, I'm still educating myself, but I'm not showing up to class anymore. And so there comes a point where companies have to treat their professionals as professionals and trust them to get security information, security training, the way that works for them and the way that helps them meet the requirements of their job. So we've noticed that it hasn't been a universal decline. The informal or professional peer-to-peer based training activities have increased over time as companies are shifting learning out of the classroom and into the professional environment.
Now, let's also quickly talk about compliance, because compliance, security, they go hand in hand, even if they are two different things. Sometimes when it comes to compliance, it is seen more or less like a checkbox. You did that, we are done. But if you have right security practices in place, you really don't have to worry about checkboxes, because checkboxes will already be taken care of. Through this report, what kind of compliance related concern that you saw which are on increase?
So the U.S. government had, and in particular, they were the first one to release, the kind of the new round of regulations. The European Union and Asian Pacific countries are also following along, but in the United States, companies that sold to the government, we found that uh, when the US government said, hey, you need to care about your supply chain, you need to care about what you consume from open source sites, third party vendors, partners, your cloud platform, and what you produce and pass on to the next link in the supply chain, we did notice that there was an increase in those activities. And there is the potential to meet the letter of the law, but not the not the intent. But the way that this current round of regulations are written, it's a lot more difficult to actually meet the letter of the law without actually securing your software and your supply chain, to the point that by the time you've done all the steps, you may as well have just secured your supply chain.
What kind of practices, like, you know pen testing or other things, that you're seeing on rise? Because security, as we earlier discussed, is a process. You cannot say, hey, this is taken care of, you're all secure fully now. So are there also some kind of practices which you're seeing there's a rise in that? And if yes, what are those and what is driving it?
A little bit of historical information. So this is the BSIM 15 and BSIM 14. We found that companies who moved to the cloud had a much easier time securing their environment, doing, ruling out misconfigurations, finding those, improving automation, and getting pen testing. So, like we've found that that there was a correlation. Maybe the framework doesn't have kind of those direct causations, but we did find a correlation between firms who were doing the secure use of cloud platforms, hosting their software in the cloud, were more likely to do those security environment and pen testing activities. And we've also found that in addition to that technology trend, that enabling people. There's the idea out there that firms can take and build a community of developers and QA testers and system architects and give them security training, plug them into a community, provide them with resources, and build this into a security champions program. And we've also observed that security champions also enable firms to do more security activities as well.
Jamie, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk about this report, talk about the company, and talk about the wider security landscape. Thanks for great insights, and I look forward to chat with you folks again. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.